All right, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Supercar game video. I'm going to do this kind of quick video, or at least just allow myself to discuss before I head out to Gen Con. And just say hi if I see you there. I think a lot of people are going to be there, or at least like known players, so I'm going to be happy to see everyone again. But today, I wanted to talk about that title and calm your Cheeto fingers just for a second, just so I can kind of go through it a little bit, huh? The first thing is that I've talked about different ban lists and errata lists and things like that, and it's interesting because now we're creeping up until the new Zenkai series, and that's pretty much what, next month? We're in August now, and I'm probably guessing that we're gonna go through Gen Con and maybe one more tournament before Bandai releases their next ban list. And this happens every single time, right? We have a ban list a little bit earlier than others when the community is asking for a ban list, and a little bit later when the game is actually going well. And I think the game is actually going pretty well right now. I think everyone's having a decent amount of time. Everyone has a deck that they can play in every single color. And most of the games are a little, you know, dragging on, but I think a lot of people have win cons in every single deck, and they're kind of archetype based, which is kind of what I prefer. I think everyone has their like spice, their variety, their type of thing that they want to play, which is great. Which is probably why you're not hearing anything about ban lists, or at least, you know, not really seeing any predictions about it. When we really think about it, when we talk about colors, that's kind of what I want to focus on. When we're talking about ban, limit, and errata, I don't think there's too many things when it comes down to colors. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to have probably 2 or 3 things on the ban list or limit list, and then erratas slash things for the Zenkai series. So the Bandai probably is going to balance and tune and do things when it comes down to Zenkai and how combos interact, whether it's going to be Launch or Hercule or Broly Surge, the leaders, cards, things like that that can kind of abuse or do really well with the Zenkai series cards. But when you really think about it, going into this next set and just looking at the format in general, we're kind of talking about Red, right? Red has finally gotten a resurgence, right? We finally got some decks to play, and they're all pretty strong, whether it's U7 or U7. Well, U7 is very strong, and Red has some stronger cards like the Baby Unison, Videl, etc. It doesn't really add up to what the format really looks like. I think a lot of people are leaning towards blue and yellow decks that actually are easier to play and it has strong plays. The yellow Trunks Vegeta that kind of controls pretty much every single deck because how it rests and responds to decks. And then we also have blue, where Gamma, Android 16, and now even Super Saiyan 3 Reboot, etc. are sort of the kind of easier decks that manipulate energy and do control the matchups pretty well. When it comes down to it, Red really only has U7 and Bulma, and people will argue pretty much all the time where Bulma only has one event. Shout out to Danny Wynn, he's a fantastic player if anything, but I think himself and others will probably let you know that playing against Bulma it's really fucking annoying. I think the only thing when it comes down to Bulma, if we're staying on that topic, is pretty much the bunny girl. I think it is like there's a good amount of things that you can do to board wipe nowadays, right? Like pretty much every single color has a board wipe. Like green has Frieza, blue has Gammas as far as the Cell, red has the secret rare, yellow kind of has a board wipe, but not really. I think that's really the only thing. Black has Finn and a couple other things, right? So you can kind of answer Bulma's boards most of the time, but I think Bulma, or at least the bunny girl Bulma, is the only thing that is really annoying. And I've talked to locals about this. Shout out to Patrick and everybody else out there doing their store championships right now. But seeing their board get minimized to 0 or 1 or whatever it may be that they have on their board, and then see 3 cards come out afterwards is extremely annoying. That, and as well as the fact that that they're going to be playing Videl and as well as the Vegito Unison in order to basically stall out the game, get super combos and other things back, and have pretty much an infinite amount of blockers because of those 3 things. So just because of that, I think one of those 3 things probably will be looked at. I don't know. I don't think there's enough Bulma players out there topping, and as well as just the percentage of the field to actually warrant a ban. On the other hand, when we take a look at U7, I think we look at the top cuts and previous tournaments when it got released or since it got released, Otakon, whatever it may be, I think U7 is the premier choice when it comes down to, hey, I kind of want to top, I'm a good player, and I want something that is consistent, and U7 does that for you. The only thing I can really think about hitting for U7, and I've had this conversation for others, with other people, like I've talked about the aandroidd 17 being a 15k and double strike pretty much on turn 2, turn 1. Well, obviously has a restriction. And then Frieza, just the dual attack 19k, hard to get rid of, and as well as super aggro. But then we really have finally the leader itself. I think when it comes down to it, it can still exist as an aggro deck and have sort of a late game, because obviously you're gonna be playing the baby or Jiren Unison with Videl, and then you're gonna be playing the 8-drop Goku as a finisher. But the thing is that leader will be able to do all of those things, but keep at a high life total. They don't have to take life. I think the biggest thing that is detrimental is that they should be able to take life either to 5 or 4. I don't understand where the design left for Ultra Instinct Goku when for that transformation, and really just that, I mean, Goku in general, you should be at a lower life and even use that form, right? You should have like that should be like the design and story behind that leader. You should be at like, I don't know, 5, 4 something life. But that's pretty much it. So Bulma, Bunny Girl, U7, take life until 4 or 5. There you go. Comes down to blue. I don't think there's really anything wrong with blue. I think blue's kind of doing blue things. Gamma's taking the spotlight right now, but again, like Super Saiyan 3 Reboot, we have Vegeta Ramp, we have aandroidd 16, which is kind of just another variation of blue-green. You know, those are the type of things that you have to consider when you look at blue. But is it very similar? Like Gamma is very similar to U7, that is easy to play, it has strong cards, and you kind of know what to expect. And that's why people are playing so much. And people are playing so much, the percentage of field goes up, and good players who play it will also end up in top cut. It's how things work. I mean, if you look at the European top cut, I think for one of their regionals, there's Gamma everywhere in the top cut. But then you look at Otakon, there is no Gamma. So, you know, figure it out. Don't really think there's anything wrong with blue per se. I think the 18 counterplay is kind of annoying. That's pretty much it. Maybe 8-drop Cell, like even then, or 9-drop Cell, whatever cost it is. I mean, even then it's like whatever, you have the tap 4 and it's kind of answerable, right? Either way, whatever. Speaking of whatever, black doesn't really need anything. I think black is a kind of a weird spot where people are now surprised that Gogeta Xeno is topping. People are now surprised that other decks like Mass Saiyan is sneaking into the top cut as well. So, you know, that's where I think right now, because we have so much blue, it comes to have a little bit of yellow and a good amount of red. And like red is kind of like mitigating some of the black decks, but blue and yellow, I think if you are very crit heavy, I mean, you're going to do some decent damage. I think Mass Saiyan as well as Gogeta Xeno can go against those decks, especially if they're not playing something like God Sealing. So that's really the only thing that you have to worry about. Maybe Beam, D-Mag, I don't know. Those are kind of like the rogue decks right now. I don't think there's anything in black per se that needs to be touched or limited or banned. Green is kind of a good position right now with Cell, and as well as now the new green Gotenks and Zenkai. I think that is a really good example where, you know, we're going to take a pretty decent leader already and make it even better, and now push a color into the format to say like, hey, go ahead and play this color, because you haven't really played it very much since. And now the Turtle School stuff looks pretty good and actually plays pretty well. I actually really do enjoy it. I think the only thing in green that might need a look at is probably Cell Xeno. That's pretty much the only thing. I mean, they already touched Cell Xeno. Like at turn 5 you should be losing already, right? I mean, you have Dirty Burst to prevent it. You have Mechikabura to say, hey, don't play it. I think really the uninteractive thing is the Vegito Unison. Like the Vegito Unison with the new Gotenks Unison, like both of those should probably just go away. Like it's like, I don't know why they keep printing those 2 cost Unisons that +2. Like anything that is 2 costs at +2, like anything is pretty decent already. But like you are adding the draw, you are adding the revenge, you are adding the minus whatever to burn a life in, pitch their cards, and now we have Gotenks that is pretty much a rebring out on a stick. I don't know, man, but we will see. I don't think those are really going to get touched. It's just something to discuss. Lastly, cooler, right? Yellow, pretty much, I've talked about yellow before, like Mecha Frieza and Poutine, etc. I think still Poutine is kind of goddamn annoying. Like, you have to like have answers for Poutine. You have to have answers for Barrier nowadays in this format. And it's very, very annoying to actually deal with. Is it a problem? I don't know. I think I am still on that fence, but I think, is cooler a problem is kind of the thing that I'm really thinking about. I've never personally had a problem with cooler up until I started playing blue, and as well as things that say, hey, can I survive, please? Cooler kind of says no to that. And you know, there's upsides and downsides to playing cooler. The downsides is that it is a feels bad card. Like, when you really think about it, like most of the cards that are on the ban list and limit list, etc., are pretty much feel bad cards. Like, they're really just not very interactive and not very fun to go against. And that's something that Bandai has been pushing for a while now. Like, do we want to make this interactive, and do we want to make this fun, and how can we do that in a fair way? We talk about counters. Bad Ring got away and got banned pretty quickly, thankfully, and then cooler stayed, and it was good for a while, and people were understandable that 3 energy is a lot. But now we're looking at 5 energy later on with the baby counter, and we're kind of looking at that as like, okay, well, maybe that's the one that's fair, not so much on cooler. Personally, I think 3 is a lot to commit right now, and I think that is kind of okay. So yeah, cons. 3 energy is a lot to commit. It is kind of a feel bad, and right now you can, you know, play 4 of them if you really, you know, think that's a good idea. On the con side, you really do have to commit to it. I've said it before. On the pro side, it does help end games when you really think about it. Like, going against blue, going against anything that is counter heavy, people who hide behind topos or Oceanus or whatever, like any kind of blockers or things that say no, you can now say no back, right? So those are the things that are really good for the game because it actually ends games. I've had this argument before about Shrouded in Mystery, which, sure, okay, whatever, you can have that one. But now cooler should kind of stay, only because it should end games and make these games go quicker. That is a problem in a best of 3 or best of 1 pre-side 35-minute format, where we only have so much time to end the game, and it's also a detrimental thing to make sure your life is high and ready. Anything to accelerate that and to make the game more cohesive is a good thing. And the other thing that is considered for cooler counter is, should other colors have the same counter, or at least something of the sort? It kind of does already, right? Like, so green has literally a counter to say no in the Majin Buu, like fuse, whatever secret. We have baby that you have to pay 5 in order to counter, and then black kind of has one, but not really. Doesn't really negate a negate, so you know. And then red doesn't really need one, and again, black doesn't really need one, since it doesn't really need one anyway. So what is the moral of the story, right? What am I rambling about? Well, it's hard to find content nowadays, let me tell you that. And 2, I think cooler should be limited to 1 at least, right? I don't think you should be able to play 4, because having a cooler, sure, you're a good player, you should be able to work around it, you should be able to play around it, and expect it. That's a big thing, right? So if you have 2 negates, you should be able to expect cooler and then be able to negate the next one. And make sure you are planning that within your life, or according to your life, basically. I think the bad side of it is that you can play it at 4, so yeah, making sure that it's limited to 1 is probably the best thing to do, because having a back-to-back cooler is pretty goddamn annoying. I'm gonna say it. Either way, that is it. I am done rambling. I gotta pack and go to Gen Con, so I hope I see you guys there. Like, dislike, subscribe if you're new, comment below what you think, and hopefully not too many people are turned off by the title, but oh well, you can suck it, I guess.